Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're an educator, you already know the struggle, right? Published materials can sometimes feel, well, like a straitjacket, and this is especially true when your students are working professionals with very specific high-stakes goals. Today, we're diving into Professor Jonathan Acuna Solano's insights on transforming those rigid English coursebooks into dynamic, flexible tools tailored specifically for adult online learners. We're going to unpack exactly how you can reclaim your agency in the virtual classroom and design experiences that truly resonate with your students.
Okay, let's kick things off with a highly relatable story from the source material. Imagine a doctor taking a corporate English course. She actually went ahead and issued a formal complaint to the language school's enrollment leader. Why? Because her textbook completely missed her professional needs and interests. Now, a lot of folks might immediately blame the publisher and say, well, it's just a terrible book. But Professor Acuna Solano points out something much more profound here.
This brilliantly illustrates a reality so many of us face. Coursebook dissatisfaction? It's rarely about bad publishing. It's actually about a fundamental mismatch, a massive disconnect between a generic curriculum and the specific adult sitting right there on your screen. The program this doctor enrolled in wasn't an English for medical professionals course, it was just broad corporate English. But she still expected immediate specialized relevance. That tension between what the book offers and what the learner actually needs, that is the exact gap that we as educators have to bridge.
So, this brings us to Section 1, the good and the bad of evaluating coursebooks, because honestly, we can't just toss the textbook out the window.
It's a real delicate balancing act here. On the plus side, coursebooks are heavily researched. They give us structured, CEFR-graded language progression, multimedia support, and quite frankly, they save us from the absolutely colossal burden of planning every single lesson from scratch. When you're juggling assessments and reports, that structure is a total lifesaver. But there's a flip side. Because publishers need to sell to a massive global audience, the content is often super generic. It lacks personalization and cultural references. They can become outdated incredibly fast. You might easily find yourself teaching a lesson based on a social scenario that literally doesn't exist anymore.
Moving on to Section 2, the adult online learner. This is a totally unique audience, and it's exactly where those generic, mass-market materials fail the fastest if left unadapted.
The crucial point here is rooted in andragogy, a theory popularized by Malcolm Knowles. You see, adults aren't simply big kids. They bring a ton of life experience to the classroom. They're highly self-directed, and most importantly, they demand immediate workplace application. If a textbook scenario feels artificial or disconnected from their day-to-day professional reality, they're going to view it as a waste of their time. And in an online setting where it's already tough to maintain engagement, a bored adult learner will just completely mentally check out.
Let's look at a super practical example. Instead of forcing a busy executive to read a generic dialogue about packing a beach umbrella for a vacation, which, let's be honest, we've all grown through, a savvy teacher transforms that exact same vocabulary lesson into a high-stakes discussion about international business travel. Same grammar, same core vocabulary, but instantly the relevance just skyrockets. You're respecting the learner's professional identity and giving them language they can literally use at work the very next morning.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3. 4 ways to adapt, using a framework from the British Council. This is your proven, highly practical toolkit.
We're going to look at 4 core strategies that shift your mindset from being just a passive reader of a script to an active designer of a learning experience. Think of these not as strict rules, but as your levers of control over the material: skipping, reordering, replacing, and supplementing. Let's break them down one by one.
First up is skipping. Now, I know some teachers feel a bit of guilt if they don't cover every single exercise on the page, but skipping simply gives you professional permission to reclaim valuable online classroom time. If an activity lacks relevance, clarity, or just doesn't serve your adult's immediate goals, skip it. Just intentionally bypass it. It's not lazy, it's a strategic omission to keep your lesson lean, mean, and focused. Next up is reordering, because, as we know, real language learning isn't perfectly linear. Sometimes your learners might organically bring up a topic or struggle with a specific structure that technically isn't scheduled for another 3 units. Reordering means you can pull that vital concept forward right now, or push back other activities until your online students are actually ready for them. Remember, you control the flow, not the binding of the book.
Then we have replacing. This is an incredibly powerful tool where you swap out a textbook's outdated cultural reference or generic text for an authentic, specialized piece of content your adult learners genuinely care about.
For instance, if the book has an article about a generic pop star and you're teaching a group of software engineers, replace that text with a short, authentic article about a recent tech development. The reading comprehension skills you're practicing are exactly the same, but the engagement level, it'll be completely off the charts.
And finally, supplementing. The source material notes this is perhaps the most common adaptation. This is where you keep the textbook's strong grammatical or lexical core, but you add rich, interactive problem-solving tasks. In a virtual classroom, just reading off a page totally kills the energy. By supplementing with a case study or a role play, you keep those virtual students actively talking, collaborating, and actually applying the target language.
And all of this brings us exactly to what educational scholar L.S. Schulman calls pedagogical content knowledge. Material adaptation isn't just peripheral improvisation or making things up on the fly. It is the ultimate manifestation of your teaching expertise. It's you taking raw subject matter and molding it so that it perfectly fits the mind and the context of the exact learner sitting in front of you.
Let's move right into Section 4, the perfect textbook, and why we really need to dismantle this myth.
It's a myth we've all secretly bought into at some point, usually when we're tired and just want an easy lesson, right? The myth that somewhere out there the perfect textbook exists. But as the source material argues, because individual learner backgrounds are so insanely diverse, because modern workplace demands evolve so rapidly, and because our social realities constantly shift, a permanently perfect one-size-fits-all textbook simply cannot exist. If a book is perfect for a student today, it might be totally obsolete for their career trajectory in just a few years. We've got to let go of this expectation. So, the crucial takeaway here, as language expert Scott Thornberry suggests, is not to become hostile to the textbook or to reject it completely. We still really appreciate the massive effort publishers put into these resources, but we must evaluate them with a fresh, critical eye. Recognizing that meaningful learning depends entirely on you, the teacher, breathing life into those pages. The book is just the starting point. You are the catalyst. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to challenge your approach before your very next class. I want you to take a hard look at your lesson plan and ask yourself, are you serving the textbook, just marching through the pages to get it done? Or is the textbook serving your learners, acting as a flexible tool that you shape to meet their specific goals? By embracing strategies like skipping, reordering, replacing, and supplementing, you really do take control of the online classroom. Thank you so much for exploring this vital pedagogical framework with me. I hope it empowers you to approach your materials with fresh eyes and to actively design even more engaging, impactful, and relevant experiences for your adult learners. Until next time, keep adapting and keep inspiring.